The dress was crimson silk, elegant, daring, and utterly wrong for a woman who belonged to him in every way but name. Ettore Malvini watched his secretary cross his office threshold, and the world sharpened into dangerous focus. Her heels clicked against marble. His pulse slowed. The Italian script inked across his knuckles, Famiglia, caught the dying light as his hand curled into a fist. She didn't belong in that dress. Not tonight. Not without him. Where are you going in that dress? His voice was quiet. The kind of quiet that stopped hearts. If you enjoy dark romance stories like this, please like, share, and subscribe. Beatrice Valdieri had worked for Don Ettore Malvini for 2 years, 3 months and 16 days. She knew the exact count because survival in his world required precision. She also knew she'd made a mistake the moment his eyes found her. The office was silent except for the city breathing below, Rome at twilight, golden and merciless. Ettore stood behind his desk, perfectly still in tailored black. The tattoo along his collarbone peeked above his open collar, Italian words she'd never been close enough to read. His expression gave nothing away. But his stillness told her everything. I asked you a question, Beatrice. She lifted her chin. Professional. Composed. The way he trained her to be. Dinner, sir. With a friend. A friend. He repeated the words like they were foreign. Like they offended him. Ettore moved around the desk with the unhurried grace of a predator. The tattoo on his wrist, a saint's name in elegant script, shifted beneath his watch as he loosened his cuffs. He stopped 3 feet away. Close enough to crowd her. Far enough to prove he didn't need to touch her to own the room. That dress cost more than your monthly salary. It was a gift. The admission slipped out before she could stop it. Something flickered in his dark eyes. Not anger. Worse. Possession. From your friend. Beatrice's heart hammered. She'd worn the dress to prove something, to herself maybe, that she wasn't his. That she had a life beyond these marble walls and leather-bound files and the suffocating weight of his attention. But standing here, watching the way his gaze traced the neckline, the fitted waist, the slit that revealed too much leg, she realized she'd proven nothing at all. Yes. One word. It detonated between them. Ettore had built an empire on control. He controlled territories, politicians, enemies, allies. He controlled his own rage the way other men controlled dogs. With discipline, with purpose, with the knowledge that releasing it would destroy everything in its path. But Beatrice in that dress, preparing to meet another man, shattered 2 years of carefully maintained distance. He'd hired her because she was intelligent, discreet, and utterly unimpressed by his reputation. She took notes during meetings where men confessed their sins. She organized his schedule with ruthless efficiency. She never flinched when blood appeared on his cuffs. She was perfect, and she was his. Not in the way his soldiers were his. Not in the way his businesses, his properties, his legacy were his. She was his in the way air was his. Unchosen. Undeniable. He'd known it the first time she'd looked him in the eye and corrected his grammar in a letter to the mayor. He'd accepted it the night he'd found himself memorizing the exact shade of her lipstick. He'd surrendered to it 3 months ago when he'd killed a man for touching her shoulder too familiarly at a charity gala. She didn't know about that last part. She didn't know about any of it. Take it off. Beatrice blinked. Excuse me. Ettore's voice remained perfectly level. The dress. Take it off and leave it on my desk. Heat flooded her face. Not embarrassment. Fury. I'm not your possession, Mr. Malvini. No. He stepped closer. The tattoo on his neck, a small cross, caught the lamplight. You're my secretary. And my secretary doesn't accept expensive gifts from men whose intentions are written all over their faces. You don't know anything about him. I know everything about him. Ettore's smile was cold, beautiful, and absolutely terrifying. Marco Ferretti. 32. Investment banker. Divorced. Lives in Perioli. Drives a Maserati he can't afford. Takes women to Pierluigi on first dates because he thinks it makes him interesting. The blood drained from Beatrice's face. He's been circling you for 3 weeks, Ettore continued softly. Flowers to your apartment. Messages during work hours. That dress delivered this morning with a note I didn't bother reading because I already knew what it said. His hand lifted, slowly giving her time to retreat. He didn't. His fingers brushed the silk at her shoulder. The touch was feather-light. It burned. He thinks you're available, Ettore murmured. He thinks you're his to pursue. His to impress. His to win. I am available. No. His thumb traced her collarbone. The world narrowed to that single point of contact. You haven't been available since the day you walked into my world and decided to stay. Beatrice should have left. She should have slapped his hand away, resigned on the spot, and walked out of Ettore Malvini's life before his obsession consumed hers. But she'd spent 2 years watching him command rooms with a glance. 2 years learning the difference between his public mask and the man who emerged in quiet moments. The one who read poetry in the original Latin, who'd endowed an entire children's hospital anonymously, who'd once spent an hour on the phone talking a young soldier's widow through her grief. She'd told herself it was professional admiration. She'd lied. Let me go, she whispered. No. This isn't, you can't. I can. His hand fell away, but he didn't step back. Cancel your dinner, Beatrice. No. The word shocked them both. Ettere's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. The tattoo on his forearm, she could just see the edge of it beneath his rolled sleeve, seemed darker in the fading light. You're refusing me. I'm living my life. Not in that dress. Not with him. Beatrice's hands shook. She clenched them into fists. You don't own me. I know. The admission was so quiet she almost missed it. But he doesn't deserve you. And that dress. His gaze raked over her again, slow and thorough and absolutely devastating. That dress is a promise you're not ready to make. How would you know what I'm ready for? Because I've spent 2 years watching you. The words were raw, unguarded. I know you take your coffee black with 1 sugar. I know you bite your lip when you're thinking. I know you hate roses but love peonies. I know you're afraid of being used. Of being seen as weak. Of letting someone in who might break you. He leaned closer. His breath ghosted across her cheek. And I know that man downstairs waiting for you will do all of those things. Because he sees you as a prize. A trophy. Something to acquire and display and eventually discard when someone shinier catches his eye. And what do you see me as? The question hung between them like a blade. Ettere's jaw tightened. The cross tattooed on his neck shifted as he swallowed. Wine. Later, Beatrice would tell herself she'd stood her ground out of principle. The truth was simpler. She'd stood her ground because leaving felt impossible. I'm going to dinner, she said quietly. You can't stop me. No. Ettore stepped back, giving her space she no longer wanted. But I can make sure you understand exactly what you're walking away from. He moved to his desk, retrieved his phone and made a call. Luca. The Maserati outside my building. Remove it. Beatrice's eyes widened. You can't. I can. He ended the call. He won't wait. Men like him never do. And when he leaves, angry and humiliated because his expensive gesture failed, you'll see him for exactly what he is. You're sabotaging my life. I'm protecting it. I didn't ask for your protection. No. His voice was soft. But you have it anyway. You'll always have it, Beatrice, whether you want it or not. The tattoo on his knuckles, Famiglia, seemed to burn as he braced his hands on the desk. Go to dinner. Wear the dress. Let him try to impress you with borrowed charm and shallow promises. But when you come back, and you will come back, we're going to discuss the real reason you're running from me. Marco Ferretti was gone by the time Beatrice reached the street. She stood in the twilight, crimson silk whispering around her legs, and felt the weight of Ettere's gaze from 60 floors above. Her phone buzzed. Something came up. Rain check. She deleted the message. Then she turned and looked up at the building that housed Ettore empire. The office windows glowed like watchful eyes. She could almost feel him there waiting. Always waiting. A black car pulled up to the curb. Luca stepped out, Ettere's most trusted soldier, his face impassive. Don Malvini requests your presence, Signorina Valdieri. It wasn't a request. Beatrice could have refused. Could have walked away into the Roman night and proved that she controlled her own destiny. Instead she got into the car. Luca drove in silence through streets that gleamed with evening rain. Beatrice watched the city blur past and tried to convince herself she was angry. That Ettere's interference was unforgivable. That his possessiveness was a warning she should heed. But beneath the anger was something more dangerous. Relief. She hadn't wanted dinner with Marco Ferretti. She'd wanted Ettore to care enough to stop it. And he had. Spectacularly. Unforgivably. Perfectly. What did that make her? The car stopped outside a building she didn't recognize. Old stone, elegant. Residential. Where are we? Luca opened her door. Don Malvini's private residence, Signorina. Her heart stuttered. I thought we were going back to the office. Not tonight. Beatrice stepped onto the sidewalk, silk dress whispering around her legs. The building's entrance was understated. No doorman, no obvious security. But she felt eyes watching from shadows. Luca led her to a private elevator. Press the penthouse button. He's waiting for you. The doors closed. The elevator opened directly into Ettere's apartment. Beatrice stepped into a space that was nothing like she'd imagined. No cold marble. No ostentatious displays of wealth. Instead, dark wood, leather, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Rome. Books everywhere. Art on the walls. Real art, the kind that belonged in museums. And Ettore standing by those windows with a glass of whiskey, his jacket discarded, his sleeves rolled to reveal the full tattoo on his left forearm. A dagger wrapped in thorns and Italian script she still couldn't quite read. He didn't turn when she entered. You came. You didn't give me a choice. I gave you the same choice I always give you, Tesoro. He turned then, and his eyes were darker than she'd ever seen them. The illusion of freedom and the reality of inevitability. Beatrice's breath caught. That's not fair. No. He set down his glass. But it's honest. He crossed to her slowly, each step measured. The tattoo on his collarbone, Amore Eterno, was fully visible now, his collar open, his tie discarded. I brought you here because I'm tired of pretending, he said quietly. Tired of the office. The professional distance. The lies we tell ourselves about what this is. And what is this? You know what it is. He stopped inches away. You've known since the day I interviewed you and realized you were the first person in a decade who wasn't afraid of me. His hand lifted to her face, cupping her jaw with devastating gentleness. This is me falling in love with my secretary and being too much of a coward to admit it. This is 2 years of wanting you so badly I can't sleep. Can't think. Can't function without knowing you're safe. Ettore. This is me on the edge of madness, Beatrice. Because you wore that dress for another man, and it broke something in me I didn't know could break. His thumb traced her lower lip. And this, he whispered, is me finally being honest about what I want. What do you want? Everything. The word was raw. Your mornings. Your nights. Your thoughts. Your fears. Your dreams. Every smile you've been giving to the world, I want them for myself. Every laugh. Every moment you bite your lip when you're thinking. Every time you look at me like I'm more than what I am. He leaned closer, his forehead nearly touching hers. I want you, Beatrice Valdieri. Not as my secretary. Not as my employee. As mine. Completely. Irrevocably. Forever. The confession hung between them like a prayer. Beatrice's hands trembled as she reached up, her fingers finding the open collar of his shirt. She could feel his heartbeat, rapid, unsteady. Human. You're dangerous, she whispered. Yes. You're controlling. Yes. You're exactly the kind of man I swore I'd never fall for. Ettari's eyes closed. Pain flickered across his features. I know. Beatrice's fingers traced the tattoo on his collarbone. Amore eterno. Eternal love. And I'm terrified, she continued, because I think I'm falling for you anyway. His eyes snapped open. What? I think I've been falling since the day you fired your previous secretary for being incompetent and then personally called every employment agency in Rome to make sure she found a better position. Since the night you stayed with that dying soldier because you'd promised his mother you'd bring him home. Since the first time you looked at me like I mattered. Her voice broke. I'm terrified because I know what this is. What you are. And I'm choosing it anyway. Choosing you. Even though it might destroy me. Ettari made a sound low in his throat. Devastation and relief and need all tangled together. And then he kissed her. It was nothing like Beatrice had imagined. She'd expected possession. Dominance. The kind of kiss that claimed and conquered. Instead, Ettari kissed her like she was precious. Sacred. Like he was terrified she might disappear if he held too tight. His hands framed her face with a gentleness that shattered her. His lips moved against hers with restrained hunger. Tasting, savoring, worshipping. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. Mio cuor, he whispered against her lips. My heart. Beatrice's fingers curled into his shirt. I'm still wearing the dress. I know. His hand slid to her waist carefully. Do you want to take it off? The question was loaded with meaning. She could feel the tension in him, the barely leashed desire, the control he was maintaining through sheer will. One word from her and he'd let go. One word and they'd cross a line there was no coming back from. Not yet, she whispered. Ettari nodded, pressing his forehead to hers. Tell me what you need. This. Just this. Her hands flattened against his chest, feeling his heart race. I need to know this is real. That it's not just obsession or possession or some twisted power dynamic. It's all of those things. His honesty was brutal. But it's also real. It's also love. It's also me choosing you every day for the rest of my life if you'll let me. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. I won't lie to you, Tesoro. What I feel is obsessive. Probably unhealthy by normal standards. But it's also devoted. Proactive. Absolute. The tattoo on his wrist caught the light as he took her hand, pressing her palm to his chest. This heart beats for you. This life is yours. Everything I am, everything I have, it's yours if you want it. And if I don't? Pain flashed across his features. Then I'll let you go. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you're safe and happy, even if it's not with me. Beatrice believed him. And that terrified her more than anything else. They stood like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, the city glittering below. Finally, Ettari spoke. Stay tonight. Ettari. Not like that. He pulled back, his expression soft. Stay because I want to wake up knowing you're safe. Stay because I want to make you breakfast. Stay because I've been alone in this apartment for 5 years and I'm tired of it. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Stay because I'm asking. Not commanding. Not manipulating. Just asking. Beatrice looked into his eyes and saw the truth there. The vulnerability. The need. Okay, she whispered. The relief in his expression was devastating. Ettari gave her one of his shirts to sleep in. Soft cotton that smelled like him, like cedar and rain and something distinctly Italian. She stood in his bathroom, staring at her reflection. The crimson dress hung on the back of the door, a reminder of how this night had started. How much had changed in just a few hours. When she emerged, Ettari was in the bedroom, setting out blankets on the chaise lounge by the window. What are you doing? Making my bed for the night. Beatrice blinked. We're not. Sharing a bed? He straightened and his smile was gentle. Not tonight, Tesoro. Not until you're ready. Not until there's no doubt in your mind that this is what you want. He crossed to her, pressing a kiss to her forehead. The bed is yours. I'll be right here if you need anything. Beatrice's throat tightened. Every expectation she'd had about this night about him was being systematically destroyed. Ettore Malvini, she said softly. Feared Mafia boss. Sleeping on a chaise lounge. For you. His knuckles brushed her cheek, tattoo stark in the lamplight. I'd sleep on broken glass. Beatrice woke at 3 in the morning to the sound of Ettore on the phone. His voice was low, deadly. The tone he used when someone had made a fatal mistake. I don't care if he's untouchable. I don't care if he has connections. He touched what's mine, and that has consequences. Silence. Find him. Quietly. And make sure he understands that Beatrice Valdieri is not a pawn in whatever game he's playing. Another pause. No. No violence. Not yet. Just make sure he knows I'm watching. He ended the call and found Beatrice sitting up in bed watching him. The tattoo on his collarbone was dark in the moonlight. Who was that? She asked quietly. Ettore was silent for a long moment. Then, someone who needs to learn boundaries. Marco. No. His jaw tightened. Someone more dangerous. He crossed to the bed, sitting on the edge. I'm sorry I woke you. Who's after me, Ettore? No one you need to worry about. That's not an answer. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. It's the only one I can give you right now. But I promise I will keep you safe. No matter what it costs. Beatrice caught his hand. I need honesty. If we're doing this, if this is real, I need to know what I'm walking into. Ettore's eyes held hers for a long moment. Then he nodded. There's a man. Alessandro Donati. Politician. Ambitious. Dangerous. The words were measured. He's been trying to undermine my influence for months. And now he's targeting you. Why? Because he's smart enough to see what you are to me. Ettore's fingers laced through hers. My greatest strength. My only weakness. The truth settled between them, heavy and undeniable. What does he want? Power. Control. My downfall. Ettore's smile was cold. He won't get any of them. How can you be sure? Because I've spent 15 years building an empire that can't be toppled by ambitious politicians. His free hand cupped her face. And because I've spent 2 years falling in love with a woman worth protecting. He leaned in, pressing his forehead to hers. I won't let him hurt you, Tesoro. I won't let anyone hurt you. You have my word. Beatrice wanted to argue. Wanted to insist she could protect herself. But looking into his eyes, seeing the absolute certainty there, she realized something. This was who he was. Protective to the point of obsession. Devoted to the point of destruction. And she was choosing it anyway. 3 weeks later. The gala was a glittering monument to excess. Rome's elite draped in diamonds and ambition. Champagne flowing like water. Orchestra music drifting through marble halls. Beatrice moved through the crowd in elegant black, her role clear. Don Malvini's secretary, present but invisible, handling logistics while he conducted business disguised as pleasure. Except she wasn't invisible anymore. Not since that night in the crimson dress. Not since she'd woken in Ettore's bed with his shirt on and his promises still echoing in her mind. Everything had changed. And everyone could see it. The way Ettore's hand lingered at the small of her back when he introduced her. The way his eyes tracked her across the room. The way his smile, rare, devastating, was reserved entirely for her. Rome's elite noticed everything. And they were noticing this. She found herself alone on the terrace, stealing a moment of quiet from the crush of bodies and political maneuvering. Ettore appeared beside her without warning, the way he always did. The tattoo on his collarbone was just visible above his bow tie, elegant Italian script that made her heart ache every time she saw it. Amore eterno. You're avoiding the party, he said quietly. I needed air. Or you needed distance from the vultures circling. Beatrice smiled despite herself. They're your guests. They're parasites. His hand found hers in the shadows between them. Necessary. Useful. But parasites nonetheless. His thumb traced her knuckles, a gesture that had become familiar over the past 3 weeks. Comforting. If dance with me, he said softly. Beatrice turned to him. Here. No. Where no one can see us and I don't have to pretend you're just my secretary. The music drifted through the open doors. A waltz, slow and haunting. Ettore pulled her into his arms with practiced grace. One hand at her waist, the other cradling her fingers. The tattoo on his wrist pressed against her palm. They moved together in the moonlight, surrounded by Rome and secrets and the weight of everything unspoken. I want to tell them, Ettore murmured against her hair. Tell them what? That you're mine. That this is real. That anyone who looks at you the way Donati's been looking at you tonight will answer to me. Beatrice's heart stuttered. You've seen him. He's been watching you for an hour. Ettore's voice was calm, deadly. Waiting for an opening. Waiting for me to be distracted. What does he want? To prove I'm weak. To prove that loving you makes me vulnerable. His arms tightened around her. He's wrong. Is he? Ettore pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. The moonlight caught the cross tattooed on his neck, stark and beautiful. Loving you doesn't make me weak, Tesoro. It makes me dangerous. Because now I have something worth burning the world for. The words should have frightened her. Instead they felt like a vow. Alessandro Donati made his move an hour later. He found Beatrice near the champagne fountain, her professional mask firmly in place. Beatrice Valdieri, he said smoothly, voice warm and practiced. I've been hoping to meet you properly. She offered a polite smile, instincts screaming danger. I'm afraid you have me at a disadvantage, Mr. Donati. Alessandro Donati. He extended his hand, holding hers a fraction too long when she accepted. I've heard excellent things about your work with Don Malvini. Efficient, discreet, invaluable. You're kind to say so. Not kind. Observant. His smile was charming, calculated. I'm always looking for exceptional talent. If you ever tire of working for Ettore, I'd be very interested in discussing opportunities. Beatrice extracted her hand carefully. That's generous, but I'm quite content where I am. Are you? His eyes gleamed with something sharp. Forgive me, but you don't seem content. You seem trapped. The word landed like a blade. I assure you I'm exactly where I choose to be. Choice. Alessandro's laugh was soft, poisonous. That's an interesting word in Ettore Malvini's world. Tell me, Beatrice, when did you last make a choice that was truly yours? When did you last have dinner with a man who wasn't monitoring your every move? When did you last wear a dress without wondering if it would provoke his jealousy? The blood drained from her face. How did he know about the dress? I see everything, Cara, Alessandro murmured, stepping closer. Including the way Ettore looks at you when he thinks no one's watching. Like you're his most precious possession. His greatest weakness. I'm neither. No. His voice dropped, intimate. Threatening. Then prove it. Have dinner with me. Tomorrow night. Let me show you what life looks like outside his shadow. Ettore appeared before she could answer. He didn't announce himself. Didn't touch her. Simply materialized at her side with the silent grace of a predator closing in on prey. The tattoo on his knuckles, Famiglia, was stark against the champagne glass he held. His presence changed the air. Made it thinner. Sharper. Donati. His voice was pleasant. Civilized. Absolutely lethal. I didn't realize you were on the guest list. Last-minute addition. Alessandro's smile didn't waver, but something shifted in his eyes. Calculation. I was just complimenting you on your excellent taste in staff. Beatrice isn't staff. The correction was soft. Devastating. She's essential. The word hung between them, loaded with meaning that everyone within earshot understood. Essential, Alessandro repeated, tasting the word. High praise from a man who considers most people expendable. Most people are. Ettore's gaze was arctic. Beatrice is the exception. Then you won't mind if I borrow her for a dance. It wasn't a question. It was a test. Beatrice watched the two men face each other. Alessandro all charm and calculated risk, Ettore all stillness and barely leashed violence. The air between them crackled with unspoken threat. Around them conversations died. People moved away, sensing danger the way animals sense earthquakes. "I mind very much," Ettore said quietly. The room seemed to hold its breath. "She's not your property, Malvini." "No." Ettore's smile was beautiful and absolutely terrifying. "She's my choice. And I'm hers. Isn't that right, Tesoro?" Every eye in the vicinity turned to Beatrice. She could feel the weight of the moment. The test, the claim, the unspoken question beneath it all. "Choose me. Choose us. Choose this dangerous, impossible thing we've been building in silence." The smart thing would be to deflect. To laugh it off. To maintain professional distance. But Beatrice was tired of being smart. "I should get back to work," she said carefully. It was a non-answer. A retreat. And it satisfied no one. Ettore found her on the terrace 20 minutes later, his jaw tight with controlled fury. Rome sprawled below them, ancient, glittering, indifferent to the small dramas of humans. "You're angry." His voice came from behind her. "I'm tired," Beatrice said quietly, not turning. "Of me. Of this." She turned to face him then, and something in her expression made him go still. "Of being claimed in public. Of being used as a chess piece in whatever game you're playing with him. Of feeling like I don't have a choice in my own life." "You always have a choice." "Do I?" Her laugh was bitter. "You've made sure I can't go on a date without interference. You send me flowers like you're courting me, but you won't actually court me. You look at me like I'm yours, but you won't say it where it matters. You claim me in front of your enemies, but not in front of yourself." The accusations hit like bullets. Each one true. Each one devastating. Ettore was silent for a long moment. The cross tattooed on his neck shifted as he breathed, visible in the terrace lights. "You're right," he said finally. Beatrice blinked. "What?" "You're right. I've been a coward." He moved closer, and for the first time since she'd known him, he looked uncertain. Vulnerable. Human. "I've told myself I was protecting you, keeping you safe from my world, giving you space to choose freely." The tattoo on his wrist caught the moonlight as he ran a hand through his hair, the first uncontrolled gesture she'd ever seen from him. "But the truth is simpler. I'm afraid." "Of what?" "Of this." He gestured between them, helpless. "Of wanting you so much it makes me weak. Of knowing that if something happened to you, I'd burn the world down and damn the consequences. Of being the kind of man who loves so obsessively it destroys everything it touches." His voice dropped to a whisper, raw and broken. "My father loved my mother like that. Killed them both. I swore I'd never." He stopped. Jaw clenched. The tattoo on his collarbone, Amore Eterno, seemed to burn in the lamplight. Eternal love. A curse as much as a blessing. "But then you walked into my office with your sharp mind and sharper tongue," he continued, words tumbling out like a confession. "And you didn't fear me. You corrected me. You challenged me. You saw the man underneath the monster and you stayed anyway." He closed the distance between them, stopping just short of touching. "So yes, Tesoro. I'm a coward. I'm afraid of what I feel for you. I'm afraid of what it means. I'm afraid that the moment I claim you openly, I paint a target on your back that I might not be able to protect you from." His hands lifted, framing her face without quite making contact. "But I'm more afraid of watching you walk away thinking you don't matter. That you're not everything." Beatrice's breath caught. "Ettore. I'm in love with you." The words fell between them like stones into still water. Rippling. Irrevocable. "I've been in love with you since you reorganized my entire filing system without asking and then lectured me on efficiency. I've been in love with you since you smiled at that frightened child in the hospital and made her laugh. I've been in love with you since the first time you said my name like I was human." His palms finally settled against her cheeks, cradling her face like she was something precious. "So if you want to have dinner with Alessandro Donati, I won't stop you. If you want to date investment bankers who give you silk dresses, I'll endure it. If you want to leave my world entirely, I'll let you go. The tattoo on his knuckles, Famiglia, pressed against her skin. Family. Blood. Everything. But know this, Beatrice Valdieri. You're not a possession. You're not a weakness. You're the only thing in this world I've ever wanted more than power. The only thing I'd sacrifice everything to keep safe. The only thing I'd die for without hesitation. He leaned closer, his forehead nearly touching hers. You're my heart. And I'm yours. Whether you want me or not. Beatrice kissed him. It was inevitable, really. Like gravity. Like breathing. Like the sun rising over Rome. She reached up, fisted her hands in his jacket, and pulled him down until their lips met in a collision of need and relief, and 2 years of restraint finally shattering. The world caught fire. Ettore made a sound low in his throat. Surprise, surrender, devastation. His arms came around her, careful even in passion, and he kissed her back like a man drowning and finding air. It was perfect. Terrifying. Absolutely right. Around them the city glittered. Inside the gala, Rome's elite schemed and plotted and played their games. And on this terrace, 2 people who'd been dancing around gravity finally surrendered to it. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ettere's forehead rested against hers. Mio cuore, he whispered. My heart. I'm still angry with you, Beatrice said breathlessly. I know. And this doesn't fix everything. I know. And if you ever sabotage my life again, I'll spend the rest of my days making it up to you. His thumb traced her jaw, reverent. I promise. She believed him. God help her, she believed him. His lips found hers again, softer this time. A question instead of a claim. And she answered it. The next morning, Beatrice woke to peonies on her bedside table and a note in Ettere's precise handwriting. Breakfast meeting at 8. Or something that won't distract me. Everything distracts me. She smiled despite herself, fingers tracing the elegant script. Then she saw the second note underneath and the smile faded. Donati is dangerous. Stay close to me today. I mean it. At the office, tension hummed beneath the surface like a current waiting to strike. Ettore was in meetings all morning, the kind where his soldiers stood outside with weapons barely concealed, where raised voices filtered through soundproof doors, where men emerged looking pale and shaken. Beatrice fielded calls, managed schedules, and tried to ignore the way her heart raced every time the door opened. At noon, flowers arrived. Not peonies. Red roses. Dozens of them arranged in a crystal vase that probably cost more than her monthly rent. The card read, Dinner tonight. My driver will collect you at 7. No need to answer. I'll take your silence as consent. Beatrice stared at the roses like they were vipers. The office door opened. Ettore stood in the doorway, his eyes finding the flowers immediately. Then her face. His expression went very, very still. No, he said quietly. I didn't. I know. He crossed to her desk, movements controlled but radiating violence. But he's testing me. Testing us. Seeing how far he can push before I break. His hand covered hers on the desk, the tattoo on his knuckles stark against her skin. What does he want? The same thing every man in my position fears. Ettere's voice was soft. Leverage. Understanding dawned cold and terrible. He wants to use me against you. Yes. Beatrice's throat tightened. Then I'll resign. Today. I'll leave Rome. No. His grip on her hand tightened, almost painful. You'll do exactly what you've been doing. You'll work. You'll be brilliant. You'll be safe. How can you be sure? The look he gave her was ancient. Absolute. The kind of certainty that built empires and toppled kingdoms. Because anyone who touches you dies, Tesoro. The words were simple. Factual. And Alessandro Donati knows it. The roses kept coming. Every day for a week. Red, white, yellow. Each bouquet more extravagant than the last. Each card more pointed. You deserve better than his obsession. He'll destroy you like he destroys everything. I can give you freedom. Real freedom. Think about it. Beatrice burned them all in the office fireplace. But Alessandro's words burrowed deep, finding the doubts she'd tried to bury beneath Ettore kisses and promises and the weight of his devotion. Was she choosing Ettore? Or was she so deep in his gravity she couldn't escape? Did he love her? Or did he love the idea of possessing something beautiful and pure in his dark world? The questions haunted her through late nights and early mornings, through stolen moments when Ettore's hand found hers beneath the conference table, through the way he looked at her like she was oxygen itself. 2 weeks later, the restaurant was elegant, discreet, the kind of place where Rome's powerful made deals over wine and truffle pasta. Beatrice sat across from Alessandro Donati and wondered how she'd gotten here. Oh, why? She knew exactly how. Curiosity, fear, the desperate need to prove she was still making her own choices. The need to know if the doubts whispering in her mind had any foundation in truth. I'm glad you agreed to meet, Alessandro said, pouring wine she had no intention of drinking. I was beginning to think Ettore had you locked in that office. I'm my own person. Are you? His smile was kind, understanding, poisonous. Then why did you look over your shoulder twice before getting in my car? Why are your hands shaking? Why do you look like a woman walking to her own execution? Beatrice's fingers tightened on her napkin. This was a mistake. Was it? Alessandro leaned forward, voice dropping to something intimate. Conspiratorial. Or is it the first honest choice you've made in months? You don't know anything about my choices. I know Ettore Malvini is a dangerous man. I know he's built his empire on blood and fear and the broken bodies of anyone who opposed him. I know he's obsessed with you in a way that will eventually consume you both. His hand reached across the table, covering hers. Beatrice fought the urge to pull away. I also know you're brilliant, kind, and utterly wasted playing secretary to a monster, Alessandro continued softly. I'm offering you an exit, Beatrice. A real one. Work for me. Let me help you disappear if that's what you need. Let me give you back your life. Why? The question was simple. The answer she suspected would be anything but. Alessandro's smile turned sad. Because I hate waste. Because Rome deserves better than Ettore Malvini's version of love. Because I've been watching you for months, and I see a woman trapped in golden chains, convinced they're a crown. He squeezed her hand gently. And because someone should offer you a choice that doesn't come with blood on it. Ettore was waiting when she got home. He sat in her living room like he owned it, which she realized with a start he probably did. The building. The street. Half the neighborhood. The tattoo on his neck was stark in the lamplight, the small cross dark against his skin. He looked up when she entered and his eyes were devastated. Luca told me where you went. His voice was empty, hollow. So I'll ask you once, Tesoro. Are you leaving me? Beatrice's throat tightened with tears she refused to shed. I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. She sank into the chair opposite him, exhausted. I needed to know if I could. If he'd let me. If I'm here because I want to be or because I'm too afraid to leave. And the word was barely audible. He offered me everything you won't. Freedom. Safety. A life outside your shadow. A choice that doesn't come with violence attached to it. Pain flashed across Ettore's features. Raw, unguarded, absolutely devastating. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. The admission shattered something between them. Ettore stood slowly like a man moving through water. The tattoo on his knuckles, Famiglia, seemed to burn as he moved to the window, putting distance between them like it was the only thing keeping him from breaking completely. I won't force you to stay, he said quietly, his back to her. I can't. It would destroy everything we are. Everything I want us to be. He turned to face her and Beatrice saw tears in his eyes for the first time. But know this, Beatrice, if you leave I won't follow. I won't send flowers or letters or pleas. I'll let you go the way you deserve. Cleanly, completely, with no strings attached. His voice cracked. And then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you're safe. That you're happy. That you have everything you need, even if it's not me. He crossed to her then, this powerful, dangerous man who commanded empires, and he knelt before her chair. Knelt. The tattoos on his wrists, his knuckles, his arms, all visible in the lamplight. All symbols of the violent world he came from. All surrendered at her feet. But if you stay, he whispered, taking her hands in his, Tesoro, if you choose this, choose us, choose me, I promise you'll never doubt it again. I'll court you properly. I'll give you space and freedom in every choice. I'll prove every single day that you're not my possession, you're my partner. My equal. My heart. His lips brushed her knuckles, reverent. Please stay. Beatrice looked down at him. This man who'd never knelt for anyone, who ruled Rome from the shadows, who could destroy empires with a word, and felt her heart crack open. I'm terrified, she whispered. So am I. What if this destroys us? Then we'll burn together. His eyes held hers, dark and certain. But at least we'll burn as one. What will Beatrice choose? Will she accept Alessandro's offer of freedom and safety? Or will she stay with the man who's offered her his entire world, his broken heart, and a love that might consume them both? Beatrice's hands trembled as she cupped Ettore face, forcing him to look at her. Stand up, she whispered. He obeyed immediately, rising to his feet but keeping his hands in hers. Waiting. Always waiting for her. I'm not leaving, she said quietly. The relief that flooded his expression was devastating. But I need something from you, Ettore. I need honesty. Complete honesty. No more protection. No more secrets. If I'm choosing this, choosing you, I need to know everything. He nodded, throat working. Ask me anything. Alessandro said you've built your empire on blood. That people who oppose you end up broken. Is that true? Yes. No hesitation. No justification. Just brutal honesty. Beatrice's breath caught. Have you killed people? Yes. His eyes never left hers. Not often. Not without cause. But yes. Marco Ferretti. The man who gave me the dress. What happened to him? Ettore's jaw tightened. He's alive. Working in Milan. He won't be returning to Rome. Did you threaten him? I had a conversation with him about appropriate boundaries. He chose to relocate. It wasn't a denial. Beatrice should have been horrified. Should have pulled away, called the police, run as far and fast as she could. But she'd known. On some level she'd always known what Ettore was. What he was capable of. She'd stayed anyway. The man at the charity gala, she continued, voice steady. 3 months ago. He touched my shoulder and you looked at him like you wanted him dead. What happened to him? Ettore was silent for a long moment. He's dead. The admission hung between them like smoke. Did you? Yes. One word. Changed everything. Beatrice stepped back and Ettore let her go immediately. The tattoo on his forearm, the dagger wrapped in thorns, seemed darker in the lamplight. He touched you, Ettore said quietly. And then he followed you to your car. He put his hand on your door. He leaned in close and said something that made you flinch. His voice was empty. Factual. I had him investigated. He had 3 assault charges that were buried. Money and connections keeping him safe. Keeping him hunting. The cross on his neck shifted as he swallowed. So I removed him from the world. Quietly. Permanently. And I'd do it again without hesitation. Beatrice pressed her hand to her mouth, trying to process. You killed a man because he touched me. I killed a predator because he was going to hurt you. And if I'd waited, if I'd hesitated, you might have been his next victim. That's not justice. That's devotion. The word was raw. That's what loving you means, Tesoro. It means I can't stand by and watch threats circle you. It means I'll cross every line, break every rule, damn my own soul to keep you safe. He moved closer but didn't touch her. You wanted honesty. This is it. I'm not a good man. I'm not even a particularly moral one. I'm a killer and a criminal and exactly the kind of man your mother probably warned you about. The tattoo on his knuckles, Famiglia, caught the light as his hands clenched into fists. But I love you more than I've loved anything in my entire life. And if that means burning in hell for the things I've done to protect you, then I'll burn gladly. Beatrice should have run. Every rational part of her screamed to leave, to call Alessandro, to accept his offer of safety and normalcy and a life that didn't come with bodies in its wake. Instead, she closed the distance between them and kissed Ettore like the world was ending. He froze for half a heartbeat. Shock, disbelief, hope. Then his arms came around her and he kissed her back with the desperation of a man who thought he'd lost everything and found it again. I should be terrified of you, Beatrice whispered against his lips. You should be. I should hate you for what you've done. You should. But I don't. Her hands fisted in his shirt, holding him close. God help me, I don't. Ettore pulled back just enough to search her face. Why? Because he would have hurt me. And you stopped him. Because you've spent 2 years protecting me from threats I didn't even know existed. Because you knelt at my feet and offered me freedom even though it would destroy you. She pressed her forehead to his. Because I love you, Ettore Malvini. The good, the bad, the absolutely terrifying. All of it. All of you. The sound he made was broken. Beautiful. Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you. Her lips found his between words. I love you. I love you. Ettore lifted her off her feet, holding her close as he carried her to the couch. He sat with her in his lap, cradling her like she was something precious. I don't deserve you, he whispered into her hair. Probably not. His laugh was wet, surprised. Brutally honest as always. You demanded honesty. You get it in return. Beatrice pulled back to look at him. His eyes were red-rimmed, his expression more vulnerable than she'd ever seen it. But here's the truth, Ettore. I don't want a good man. I don't want safe or normal or the kind of love that comes with safety nets and escape routes. I want you. Dangerous, obsessive, absolutely devoted you. Her fingers traced the tattoo on his collarbone. Amore eterno. I want this. Eternal love. The kind that doesn't make sense. The kind that probably shouldn't exist. The kind that burns so hot it consumes everything else. It might destroy us. Then we'll be destroyed together. Ettore kissed her again, slow and thorough and absolutely reverent. When he finally pulled back, his smile was soft. Stay here tonight, he murmured. Let me hold you. Let me prove that this is real. Okay. And tomorrow we deal with Alessandro Donati. Properly. Finally. Beatrice's heart stuttered. What are you going to do? What I should have done weeks ago. His thumb brushed her cheek. I'm going to make him understand that you're not a pawn in his game. That touching you, even indirectly, has consequences he can't imagine. Ettore. Trust me, Tesoro. No violence. No bodies. Just a very clear conversation about boundaries and survival. They fell asleep on her couch, wrapped in each other as Rome breathed beyond the windows. For the first time in years, Ettore slept without nightmares. For the first time in her life, Beatrice felt completely safe. The next morning, Ettore woke her with coffee and peonies and a kiss that made her forget her own name. I have a meeting this morning, he murmured against her lips. Unavoidable. But I'll be back by noon. With Alessandro? Yes. His hand cupped her face. He needs to understand that this ends now. That you're protected. That any move he makes against you is a declaration of war. Beatrice's stomach tightened. What if he doesn't back down? Then he's more foolish than I thought. Ettere's smile was cold. But I don't think he is. Alessandro is ambitious, not suicidal. Promise me you'll be careful. I promise. He kissed her forehead. Luca will stay with you until I return. Don't leave the apartment. I'm not a prisoner. No. You're the most important thing in my world. And until I know Donati's accepted defeat, you stay protected. Should have felt like control. Instead it felt like love. Luca arrived 20 minutes after Ettore left. He was a mountain of a man, 6'5", built like a tank, with scars that told stories Beatrice didn't want to hear. But his eyes were kind when he looked at her. Don Malvini has instructed me to keep you safe, Signorina. I'm perfectly fine here. With respect, Signorina, you're not. He moved to the window, checking sightlines. Alessandro Donati is desperate. Desperate men make mistakes. And those mistakes often involve innocent people getting hurt. Beatrice joined him at the window. You think he'd actually hurt me? I think he'd use you to hurt Don Malvini. Which amounts to the same thing. The matter-of-fact tone should have terrified her. Instead it steadied her. This was Ettore's world. Violence lurking beneath civility. Threats disguised as politeness. Death wearing expensive suits. And she'd chosen to stay in it. How long have you worked for Ettore? She asked. Luca's expression softened slightly. 12 years, Signorina. Since I was 17 and stupid enough to try robbing one of his shipments. He hired you after you tried to rob him? He said I had potential. Gave me a choice. Work for him or face the consequences of my idiocy. A small smile. I chose wisely. And you've been loyal ever since. Don Malvini inspires loyalty, Signorina. He protects his people. Values them. Would die for any of us without hesitation. Luca turned to face her fully. The way he'd die for you. The certainty in his voice was absolute. He's never brought a woman into his life before, Luca continued quietly. Never allowed anyone close. Never showed weakness or vulnerability. But with you, he shook his head. With you he's different. Human. Happy. You approve. I'm grateful, Signorina. We all are. You've given him something we never could. What's that? A reason to live instead of just survive. 3 hours later. Beatrice was reading when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello. Beatrice. Alessandro's voice was smooth. Controlled. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Her blood ran cold. How did you get this number? I have resources. But that's not important. What's important is that we talk. Alone. Before Ettore does something we'll both regret. Luca was across the room in an instant, tension radiating from him. Beatrice put the phone on speaker. We have nothing to discuss, Alessandro. Don't we? I'm meeting with Ettore in an hour. And I need you to understand something before that happens. What? That I'm not your enemy. That everything I've done, the flowers, the dinner invitation, the job offer, was genuine. I saw a woman trapped by a dangerous man's obsession and I wanted to help. His voice softened. But I see now that you love him. That this isn't Stockholm Syndrome or fear or manipulation. It's real. And I respect that. Beatrice's grip on the phone tightened. Then why are you calling? To warn you. Ettore is planning to destroy me. I have sources in his organization. He's compiling evidence of my indiscretions. He plans to end my political career, ruin my reputation, make sure I never threaten him again. You threatened me first. I never threatened you. I offered you freedom. By trying to use me against him. By circling like a predator. By making me feel unsafe in my own life. Silence on the other end. Then, you're right. I crossed lines I shouldn't have. And I'm sorry. But please, Beatrice, talk to Ettore. Tell him I'm backing off. That I'll leave Rome, leave politics, disappear entirely if that's what he needs. Why should I help you? Because I'm not the monster he is. Because I've never killed anyone. Because I'm just a man who made mistakes and I don't want to die for them. The fear in his voice was genuine. Luca was already texting Ettore. I'll think about it, Beatrice said quietly. Thank you. And Beatrice? I meant what I said. You deserve better than a life lived in fear. But if Ettore Malvini is what you want, if he makes you happy, then I hope you have everything you're looking for. He hung up. Beatrice stared at the phone, her hands shaking. Luca's phone buzzed. He read the message and looked up. Don Malvini is on his way back. He says to stay put. Ettore arrived 30 minutes later, his expression thunderous. He swept into the apartment, went straight to Beatrice and pulled her into his arms. Did he threaten you? His voice was deadly quiet. No. He apologized. Ettore pulled back, searching her face. What? He called to apologize. To ask me to convince you not to destroy him. He sounded scared. Good. He should be. Ettore, what are you planning? He was silent for a moment, jaw tight. Then he led her to the couch and sat beside her, the tattoo on his wrist visible as he took her hands. Alessandro Donati has been embezzling from city funds for 3 years. He's taken bribes from developers, accepted illegal campaign contributions, and used his position to silence whistleblowers. Beatrice's eyes widened. How do you know? I've known for months. I had him investigated the moment he showed interest in you. And you were going to what? Expose him? Yes. Ettore's voice was flat. I was going to send evidence to every newspaper in Italy. Destroy his career. Make sure he spent the next decade in prison. He met her eyes. Do you want me to? The question hung between them. Beatrice thought about Alessandro's fear. His apology. His desperate plea for mercy. She thought about the man Ettore had killed for touching her. The threats he'd neutralized. The violence he was capable of. And she thought about the choice he was giving her now. What do you want to do? She asked quietly. I want to eliminate every threat to you. Every single one. I want to make sure no one ever looks at you as leverage again. By destroying him. By making an example of him. Beatrice was quiet for a long moment. Then, what if there was another way? Ettore's eyes narrowed. What are you thinking? Let him go. Let him leave Rome, leave politics, disappear like he offered. But make sure he knows that if he ever comes back, if he ever speaks your name or mine again, the evidence goes public. That's mercy, tesoro. I don't deal in mercy. No. It's strategy. She squeezed his hands. If you destroy him, you make an enemy of everyone who supported him. Every politician, every developer, every person who benefits from his corruption. They'll come after you. After us. She leaned closer. But if you let him disappear quietly, he's just another failed politician. No martyrdom. No revenge. Just gone. Ettore studied her face for a long moment. Then he smiled, slow, proud, absolutely devastating. You're brilliant. I know. And you're thinking like a Malvini. I'm thinking like your wife. Eventually. The word hung between them, deliberate and perfect. Ettore's hand came up to cup her face. You're sure about this? About mercy? I'm sure about us. And I don't want our future built on unnecessary enemies. He kissed her then, slow and deep and full of promise. Then we'll do it your way, he murmured against her lips. Donati leaves. Quietly. Permanently. And if he ever resurfaces, we destroy him. Deal. 1 week later. Alessandro Donati left Rome on a Thursday morning. No press conference. No scandal. Just a quiet resignation citing personal reasons and health concerns. Ettore watched the news with Beatrice in his arms, the tattoo on his collarbone visible above his open shirt. He's gone, he said quietly. Are you disappointed? No. He pressed a kiss to her hair. You were right. This was smarter. Cleaner. And I'm learning that loving you means listening to you. Trusting your judgment. Letting you make me better. Beatrice turned in his arms. I don't want to change you, Ettore. You already have. In all the ways that matter. He stood, pulling her to her feet. Come with me. I have something for you. He led her to his car. Not the usual black sedan with bulletproof glass, but a vintage Alfa Romeo, red and gleaming. Where are we going? You'll see. They drove through Rome as the sun set, past the Colosseum and ancient ruins, past the Trevi fountain where tourists threw coins and made wishes. Ettore parked outside a small jewelry store in Trastevere. What are we doing here? Beatrice asked. Getting you a ring. Her breath caught. Ettore. I know I proposed already. And I know you said yes. But I want to do this properly. Let you choose. Let you have exactly what you want. He took her hand, the tattoo on his knuckles stark against her skin. Pick any ring in that store, Tesoro. Or tell the jeweler to design something new. Whatever you want, it's yours. Beatrice's eyes filled with tears. You already gave me a ring. That was my grandmother's. Beautiful but not yours. Not chosen by you. He cupped her face. I want you to have something that's completely your choice. Something you picked because you loved it, not because I gave it to you. They spent 2 hours in that small shop. The jeweler brought out tray after tray. Diamonds, sapphires, emeralds, intricate designs and simple bands. Beatrice tried them all. And finally she chose. A platinum band with a single princess-cut diamond, elegant and understated. Simple. Perfect. Ettore slipped it onto her finger, replacing his grandmother's ring with this new symbol of their future. How does it feel? He asked. Like mine. Like us. He kissed her in that small shop with the jeweler pretending not to watch, and Beatrice felt the last of her doubts dissolve. This was right. This was home. This was forever. 3 weeks later. The restaurant was elegant without being ostentatious. Soft lighting, quiet music, tables spaced for privacy. Ettore sat across from Beatrice wearing a perfectly tailored suit, the tattoo on his wrist visible as he reached for his wine glass. He'd been attentive all evening. Charming. The version of himself reserved for people he actually cared about. Tell me something I don't know about you, Beatrice said. What do you want to know? Everything. Your childhood. Your family. How you became this. Ettore was quiet for a moment, considering. My father was Don before me, he said finally. Powerful. Feared. Absolutely devoted to my mother. He loved her the way wildfires love dry forests. Consuming, unstoppable, ultimately destructive. His fingers traced the rim of his glass. He had enemies. Men who wanted his power. And they knew the fastest way to destroy him was through her. Beatrice's chest tightened. What happened? They took her. Held her for 3 days while my father tore Rome apart looking for her. The tattoo on his collarbone, Amore Eterno, seemed darker in the candlelight. He found her. Killed everyone involved. Brought her home. But she was never the same. The trauma broke something in her. She withdrew. Stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. Just faded. His voice cracked slightly. My father watched the woman he loved disappear piece by piece. And when she finally died, 6 months after the kidnapping, he put a gun in his mouth and followed her. Beatrice reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. I was 15, Ettore continued. Old enough to understand. Old enough to inherit. Old enough to swear I'd never love anyone the way he loved her. Never give anyone that kind of power over me. He turned his hand over, lacing their fingers together. And then you walked into my office and destroyed every vow I'd ever made to myself. Ettore. I'm not my father, Tesoro. I won't let what happened to them happen to us. I'm stronger. Smarter. More ruthless. His eyes met hers. But I need you to understand what loving you means. It means every enemy I have becomes your enemy. It means living with security and precautions and the knowledge that people might try to use you against me. I know. Do you? His grip tightened. Because it's not romantic, Beatrice. It's not the fairy tale version of love. It's complicated and dangerous and sometimes terrifying. I know, she repeated firmly. And I'm choosing it anyway. I'm choosing you anyway. Ettore brought her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. Then let's get married. Beatrice's breath caught. What? Marry me. He said it like it was simple. Inevitable. Not someday. Not eventually. Before anything else can go wrong. Before anyone else can try to tear us apart. That's not a proposal, that's a command. You're right. He stood, moved around the table and knelt beside her chair. The entire restaurant fell silent. Ettore took both her hands in his, the tattoos on his knuckles and wrists stark against her skin. Beatrice Valdieri, he said quietly, you are the most brilliant, stubborn, beautiful woman I've ever known. You see me, the monster and the man, and you stay anyway. You challenge me. You soften me. You make me want to be better. His voice strengthened. I love you more than power. More than legacy. More than my own life. And I will spend every day of our marriage proving it. Protecting you. Cherishing you. Giving you everything you deserve. He gestured to the ring already on her finger. You already wear my ring. You already have my heart. All I'm asking is that you let me make it official. Let me call you my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life loving you the way you deserve to be loved. Tears streamed down Beatrice's face. Every eye in the restaurant watched. And she didn't hesitate. Yes. Ettore slipped a second ring onto her finger. A wedding band to match her engagement ring. And kissed her like they were the only two people in the world. The restaurant erupted in applause. But Beatrice barely heard it. All she could feel was Ettore's arms around her, his heart racing against hers, his whispered promises in Italian against her hair. Ti amo mio cuore. Per sempre. I love you, my heart. Forever. 2 weeks later. The wedding was small. Private. Just family and Ettore's most trusted inner circle. They married at sunset in a centuries-old chapel on the outskirts of Rome, with ivy climbing ancient stones and candlelight flickering against frescoed walls. Beatrice wore cream silk, a dress she'd chosen herself, elegant and timeless. The fabric draped perfectly, the train just long enough to whisper against stone floors. She carried peonies, white and blush pink, tied with ivory ribbon. Ettore wore black, perfectly tailored, the tattoo on his collarbone visible above his open collar. He'd rolled his sleeves to his elbows, making the ink on his forearms visible. Deliberate, she knew. A statement. This is who I am. This is what you're getting. When she walked down the aisle, no father to give her away because she belonged to no one but herself, Ettore's expression crumbled. Tears streamed down his face. This dangerous man. This killer. This empire builder. Crying openly at the sight of his bride. Luca stood as his best man, grinning. Sophia, Ettore's goddaughter and Luca's niece, was the flower girl, scattering petals with serious concentration. The priest's voice echoed in the ancient space. Do you, Ettore Malvini, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? To love and protect her in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for all the days of your life? Ettore's voice was steady. Absolute. With my life. With my soul. With everything I am, I do. And do you, Beatrice Valdieri, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? To love and honor him in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for all the days of your life? Beatrice smiled through her tears. I do. The rings were exchanged. Simple platinum bands engraved with Amore Eterno on the inside. And when the priest said, You may kiss your bride, Ettore cradled her face like she was made of glass and kissed her with a tenderness that stopped hearts. The small gathering erupted in cheers. But Ettore and Beatrice barely heard them. They were lost in each other. In the promise. In the beginning of forever. The reception was held in a villa overlooking Rome. Intimate, elegant, filled with music and laughter and love. Ettore danced with his bride as the sun set, the city glittering below them. How does it feel? Beatrice asked. Being married? Like coming home. His hand settled at the small of her back. Like every difficult thing I've ever done was leading me here. To you. No regrets. Not a single one. He spun her gently and her laugh echoed across the terrace. Later, Luca gave a toast that had everyone crying and laughing in equal measure. To Don Malvini, he said, raising his glass, who proved that even the hardest hearts can soften. And to Beatrice, who had the courage to see the man beneath the armor. May your love be eternal. May your happiness be endless. And may you always choose each other, every single day. Salute. The gathering echoed the toast. and Edery pulled his wife close, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Forever," he whispered. "Forever," she agreed. They honeymooned in a villa overlooking the Mediterranean, private, secure and utterly perfect. White stone and blue water. Olive groves and endless sky. A place where the world couldn't touch them. Edery carried her over the threshold with a smile that made her heart ache. "Alone at last, Signora Malvini." Beatrice laughed. "I kept my name. I know. And I love you for it." He set her down gently, his hands settling at her waist. "Ready?" She knew what he was asking. They'd waited. Edery had insisted on it, wanting their wedding night to be perfect without shadows or doubts. And now, standing in the soft lamplight with the sea breathing beyond the windows, Beatrice had never been more certain. Yes. Edery's hands trembled slightly as he reached for the zipper of her dress. Reverent. Like she was something holy. The silk whispered to the floor. And Beatrice stood before him in candlelight, vulnerable and unafraid. "You're perfect," he breathed. "So are you." Her fingers found the buttons of his shirt, working slowly, revealing ink and scars and the body of a man who'd fought for everything he had. The tattoos were everywhere. Famiglia on his knuckles, the saint's name on his wrist, the dagger wrapped in thorns on his forearm, Amore Eterno on his collarbone, the small cross on his neck. Each one a story. A choice. A piece of the man she loved. She traced them with her fingertips, learning him. "Tesoro," he whispered, voice strained. "I love you. I love you more." And then words became unnecessary. The next morning, Beatrice woke wrapped in silk sheets in Edery's arms, sunlight streaming through open windows. She'd never felt more content, more safe, more loved. Edery stirred beside her, pressing a kiss to her bare shoulder. "Good morning, wife." "Good morning, husband." The words felt right. Perfect. He pulled her closer and they stayed like that for a long time. Wrapped in each other, the world held at bay. The Mediterranean whispered beyond the windows. T-birds called. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang. "What are you thinking?" Edery murmured against her hair. "That I want to stay here forever." "Then we will." "Edery, you have responsibilities. The business. Rome. Rome will survive without me for 2 weeks. And Luca can handle the business." His arms tightened around her. "Right now, my only responsibility is you." Beatrice turned in his arms to face him. His hair was mussed, his eyes soft with sleep and satisfaction, the tattoos stark against tanned skin. He'd never looked more human. More hers. "I have something to tell you," she said quietly. Edery went still. "What?" "Before the wedding I went to the doctor. Just a routine checkup, nothing serious." His hand cupped her face. And everything is fine. Perfect, actually. Except," she bit her lip, suddenly nervous. "I'm pregnant." The words hung between them. Edery stared at her, unblinking, like he hadn't quite heard her. "What?" "I'm pregnant. 6 weeks. I wanted to wait until after the wedding to tell you. I didn't want to." He kissed her. Fierce and desperate and absolutely joyful. When he finally pulled back, tears streamed down his face. "We're having a baby? We're having a baby." The sound he made was pure devastation and elation tangled together. He slid down her body until his head rested against her still flat stomach, his arms wrapped around her waist. "Mio cor," he whispered against her skin. "My heart. Both of you." Beatrice's fingers threaded through his hair as her own tears fell. "Are you happy?" "Happy." He looked up at her, his expression raw. "I'm terrified. I'm overwhelmed. I'm more grateful than I have words for." He pressed a kiss to her stomach. "I'm going to be a father." "Yes. I'm going to protect you both. Love you both. Give you everything." "I know." He rose up to kiss her again, cradling her face like she was infinitely precious. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for choosing me, for loving me, for giving me this." We're in this together. Forever. Forever. 6 months later. The nursery was painted soft yellow, filled with afternoon light and the promise of new life. Beatrice stood at the window, her hand resting on her swollen belly, watching Rome sprawl below. Behind her, Eddery wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hands covering hers over their child. "How are you feeling?" he murmured. "Fat. Uncomfortable. Ridiculously happy." His laugh rumbled through her. "You're beautiful. I'm enormous. You're perfect." He pressed a kiss to her neck, just above where his ring rested on a chain. She'd moved it there when her fingers swelled. "And in 3 months we'll have a daughter." They'd found out the week before. A girl. Healthy and strong and already loved beyond measure. "What if I'm not ready?" Beatrice whispered. "Then we'll figure it out together." Eddery turned her gently to face him. "The same way we figured out everything else." The tattoo on his collarbone, Amore Eterno, caught the light. Eternal love. No longer a curse. A promise kept. "I want to name her Sophia," Beatrice said. "After your mother." Eddery's expression crumbled. "You don't have to." "I want to. She deserves to be remembered. And our daughter deserves to know where she comes from. The love that built this family even when it was broken." He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you. For everything. For seeing the good in my family's story even when I couldn't." They stood like that for a long time, wrapped in each other and the future they were building. Beatrice felt the baby kick, strong, insistent. And Eddery's hand immediately went to where the movement was. "She's strong," he said, wonder in his voice. "Like her father. Like her mother." Another kick and they both laughed. "I think she agrees," Beatrice said. Eddery knelt then, pressing his lips to her belly, the tattoos on his arms visible as he cradled her. "Piccola Sophia," he whispered. "We're so excited to meet you. Your mother is the strongest, most beautiful woman in the world. And I promise I'll spend every day protecting you both. Loving you both. Being the father you deserve." Beatrice's fingers threaded through his hair, her heart so full it hurt. This was what she'd chosen. This beautiful, complicated, absolutely perfect life. And she wouldn't change a single moment. 3 months later. Sophia Malvini was born at dawn on a Tuesday in April. She had her mother's eyes, dark and intelligent, and her father's determination, and she screamed her displeasure at the world with impressive volume. Eddery held his daughter for the first time with tears streaming down his face, the tattoos on his arms stark against her delicate blanket. His hands that had killed, that had built an empire, that had wielded power without mercy, trembled as they cradled this tiny, perfect life. "She's perfect," he whispered, voice broken. Beatrice, exhausted and radiant, smiled from the hospital bed. "She's ours. She's ours." He sat beside his wife, their daughter cradled between them, and felt something in his chest settle into place. This was what his father had died for. This was what his mother had been destroyed protecting. This fierce, terrible, beautiful love that made everything else meaningless. And unlike his parents, Eddery would make sure it had a different ending. He would protect them. Both of them. With everything he was. And he would make sure Sophia grew up knowing safety and love and a father who would move mountains for her. "Look at her," Beatrice whispered. "She has your nose." "Poor thing." "Stop. You have a perfect nose." "I have a broken nose. From a fight when I was 19. It's perfect anyway." He kissed his wife's forehead, then his daughter's, overwhelmed with gratitude. Luca appeared in the doorway, grinning. "Can I meet her?" "Come in," Eddery said. His most loyal soldier approached carefully, his expression soft as he looked at the baby. "She's beautiful, Don Malvini." "Thank you, Luca." "What's her name?" "Sophia." "Sophia Beatrice Malvini." Luca's eyes widened. After my mother. And after the woman who saved me." Beatrice squeezed his hand. And Ettore Malvini, feared Mafia boss turned devoted husband and father, felt tears stream down his face again. He'd never been happier in his entire life. 1 year later. The villa overlooked the sea, large enough for family and security but small enough to feel like home. Beatrice sat on the terrace with Sophia in her lap, watching the waves crash below. The baby giggled, reaching for sunlight with chubby hands. She was walking now, stumbling really but determined. So determined. Just like her father. Ettore emerged from the house with coffee and pastries, the tattoo on his forearm visible beneath rolled sleeves. Luca called, he said, settling beside them. The shipment cleared customs. No problems. Good. He'd been gradually transitioning out of the more dangerous aspects of his business. Going legitimate. Building something Sophia could inherit without shame. It was slow work. Complicated. Sometimes dangerous. But Beatrice had helped him see possibilities beyond violence and fear. I got an offer today, she said quietly. Ettore stiffened slightly. What kind of offer? Teaching position. University of Rome. Business ethics. She smiled at his expression. Ironic, I know. Do you want it? I think so. Part-time. Sophia comes first. But it might be good to do something that's mine again. To show her that women can be mothers and professionals. That we don't have to choose. Ettore was quiet for a moment, watching Sophia grab at his coffee cup with determined little hands. Then you should take it. Just like that. Just like that. He took her hand, the tattoo on his knuckles, Famiglia, pressing against her skin. I told you I'd give you freedom and choices. I meant it. Even if it means less time together, we'll make it work. We always do. Beatrice leaned against his shoulder, Sophia babbling happily between them. I love you. I love you more. Impossible. True anyway. Sophia babbled her agreement and they both laughed. The Mediterranean sparkled below. Seabirds wheeled overhead. The sun warmed their skin. And for a moment, everything was perfect. 5 years later. Sophia started school on a Tuesday morning in September. She wore a little uniform and carried a backpack nearly as big as she was. Her dark eyes, Beatrice's eyes, were bright with excitement and nerves. You'll be fine, Beatrice assured her, straightening her collar for the 3rd time. What if the other kids don't like me? Then they're idiots, Ettore said, earning a sharp look from his wife. What? It's true. Ettore. Fine. He knelt before his daughter, the tattoos on his arms visible beneath his suit jacket. Sophia, you're brilliant and kind and brave. Anyone who doesn't see that isn't worth your time. But Papa, what if they think I'm weird? Then you find the other weird kids and make them your friends. Sophia giggled despite her nervousness. And remember, Ettore continued more seriously, you're a Malvini. That means something. It means you're strong. It means you're loved. It means you have a family that will always protect you. He tapped her chest right over her heart. But it also means you protect others. You stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. You use your strength to help, not hurt. Understand? Sophia nodded solemnly. I understand, Papa. Good girl. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. Now go show them how brilliant you are. Sophia threw her arms around his neck. I love you, Papa. I love you too, Piccola. More than anything in this world. Beatrice watched them with tears in her eyes, her heart so full it ached. This was what she'd chosen. This beautiful, complicated, absolutely perfect life. And she'd choose it again and again and again. 10 years later. The anniversary party was elegant but not ostentatious. Family and close friends gathered to celebrate a decade of marriage. Ettore stood with Beatrice on the terrace of their villa, Rome glittering in the distance. Sophia was 15 now, brilliant and stubborn and already showing signs of inheriting her father's business acumen and her mother's moral compass. She was dancing inside with her friends, laughing without a care in the world. Safe, happy, of everything Ettore and Beatrice had fought to give her. We did it, Beatrice said softly, leaning into her husband's embrace. Did what? Built something good. Despite everything. Despite all the reasons it shouldn't have worked. Ettore pulled her closer, the tattoos she'd traced 1,000 times visible in the moonlight. You did that, tesoro. You took a monster and made him human. You were always human. You just needed permission to show it. He kissed her temple, his arms tightening around her waist. 10 years. Still not enough. No. I'll need at least 1,000 more. Beatrice laughed, the sound floating out over the terrace. Greedy. Absolutely. His voice was soft, reverent. I'm greedy for every moment. Every laugh. Every morning I wake up beside you. Every time Sofia calls me Papa. Every second of this life we've built. The tattoo on his collarbone. Amore eterno. Caught the light. Eternal love. The promise that had terrified him. The promise that had saved him. Inside, someone called for them to cut the anniversary cake. But Ettore and Beatrice stayed on the terrace for a moment longer, wrapped in each other and the life they'd built. I love you, Beatrice whispered. I love you more. Still impossible. Still true. 20 years later. Sofia graduated with honors from university on a bright June morning. She stood on stage accepting her degree in international business, and Ettore's chest swelled with pride so fierce it hurt. Beside him, Beatrice squeezed his hand, tears streaming down her face. She's brilliant, she whispered. She's ours. That night they gathered for dinner. 3 generations now, with Sofia's boyfriend nervously trying to impress the family. Ettore watched the young man with careful eyes, noting the way he looked at Sofia. The respect. The genuine affection. The protective way he held her chair. Still, when the boy asked to speak with him privately, Ettore's expression went cold. They stepped onto the terrace overlooking the sea. Sir, if you hurt her, Ettore said quietly, each word deliberate, there's nowhere on earth you can hide. I've spent decades building power and influence. I'll use every bit of it to destroy you. The boy went pale, his Adam's apple bobbing. That said, Ettore continued, his expression softening slightly, if you love her the way she deserves, if you protect her and cherish her and give her the freedom to be exactly who she is, then you have my blessing. The boy's shoulders straightened. I love her, sir, with everything I am. And I promise, I'll spend my life proving I'm worthy of her. Ettore studied him for a long moment, seeing echoes of himself decades ago. Desperate to prove himself, terrified of losing what mattered most. Finally he nodded. Then welcome to the family. But know this. The tattoo on his knuckles caught the light as he gripped the young man's shoulder. In this family we protect our own. Fiercely. Absolutely. Without hesitation. If you're going to be part of it, you need to understand what that means. I understand, sir. Good. Now go propose properly. She deserves romance, not nerves. The boy's eyes widened. How did you? I can see the ring box outline in your pocket. And you've been sweating for the past hour. Ettore's smile was almost kind. Pro tip. She likes peonies, not roses. And she'll say yes as long as you're honest about your feelings. Thank you, sir. Ettore watched the young man hurry back inside, and felt Beatrice's arms wrap around him from behind. You scared him, she said, amusement in her voice. Of course I did. It's my job. She's a grown woman. She's my daughter. He turned in her arms. I'm allowed to be protective. You gave him your blessing. Because he loves her. I can see it. Ettore's hand cupped her face. The way I loved you. The way I still love you. 20 years, Beatrice murmured. Not enough. Never enough. They stood wrapped in each other as the sun set over the Mediterranean, and Beatrice thought about the journey that had brought them here. A crimson dress. A jealous question. A choice to stay. And everything that had followed. All the beautiful, terrifying, absolutely perfect moments. She wouldn't change a single one. 30 years later. The villa was filled with family. Sofia and her husband, their 3 children, Luca and his extended family, friends who'd become family over decades. Ettore sat in his favorite chair with his youngest grandchild in his lap, telling stories about old Rome, about building empires, about the woman who'd changed everything. The tattoos on his arms were faded now but still visible. Still symbols of the life he'd lived, the choices he'd made, the family he'd built. Beatrice watched from across the room, her heart full. They'd built something impossible. A love that survived violence and danger and all the reasons it shouldn't have worked. And it had been worth every difficult moment, every sacrifice, every choice. Sofia approached with champagne, her own children trailing behind her. A toast. To what? Ettore asked, settling the baby more comfortably. 30 years of marriage. 30 years of proving that love can transform anything. The room raised their glasses. Ettore stood carefully, passing the baby to Sofia and crossed to his wife. The tattoos on his knuckles, famiglia, had faded but the meaning remained eternal. 30 years, he said softly, taking Beatrice's hands. And I'd do it all again. Every moment. Every challenge. Every beautiful, terrifying second. Even the beginning? When I wore that dress and you snapped at me. Especially that. He pulled her close. That was the night everything changed. The night you showed me what I could have if I was brave enough to reach for it. Beatrice rose on her toes and kissed him, her husband of 30 years, and the room erupted in cheers. But she barely heard them. All she could feel was Ettore's arms around her, his heart beating against hers, the absolute certainty that this love, this life, this family, was exactly where she was meant to be. I love you, she whispered against his lips. I love you more, he replied, his voice thick with emotion. Still impossible. Still true. And as their family celebrated around them, Ettore and Beatrice held each other close, grateful for every single day they'd been given. Grateful for a crimson dress and a jealous question. Grateful for the courage to choose love even when it seemed impossible. Grateful for forever. 40 years after that crimson dress. The hospital room was quiet except for the sound of breathing and monitors. Beatrice lay in the bed, her hair silver, her face lined with age and laughter and a life well lived. Ettore sat beside her, holding her hand. The tattoos on his arms were nearly invisible now, faded with time. But the love was the same. Eternal. Unchanging. Absolute. Do you remember, Beatrice whispered, her voice weak but steady, when you asked me where I was going in that dress? Ettore's throat tightened. I remember everything. I was so angry with you. You had every right to be. I was possessive and controlling and completely out of line. You were in love. I was terrified. His fingers tightened on hers. Terrified of what I felt. Terrified of losing you before I'd even had you. She smiled, the expression soft and full of 40 years of memories. And look what we built from that terror. A family. A life. 40 years of choosing each other every single day. Tears streamed down Ettore's face. Not enough. I need more time. We had enough. Her free hand lifted weakly to his face, trembling fingers tracing the lines time had etched. We had everything. Sofia entered quietly, her own eyes red from crying. Behind her, the hallway was filled with family wanting to say goodbye. Mama, Sofia whispered, taking her mother's other hand. We're all here. Good. Beatrice's smile widened. My beautiful girl. My brilliant, strong, perfect girl. I love you, Mama. I love you too, Piccola. Take care of your father for me. He's going to need you. One by one they came. Children. Grandchildren. Great-grandchildren now. Luca old but still standing strong. Friends who'd become family. Each one kissed Beatrice. Thanked her. Told her they loved her. And through it all, Ettore held her hand, his heart breaking with every breath she took. When the room finally emptied and it was just the two of them again, Beatrice turned her head to look at him. Amore mio, she whispered. My love. Mio cuor. His voice broke. My heart. Thank you. For what? For being brave enough to love me. For 40 years of choosing me. For proving that love can transform anything. Even monsters into men. You did that. You saved me. We saved each other. Her eyes drifted closed, then opened again with effort. I'm tired, Ettore. I know, Tesoro. I know. Will you hold me? One last time. He climbed carefully into the hospital bed beside her, gathering her into his arms the way he had thousands of times over 40 years. She settled against his chest, her ear over his heart. I love you, she whispered. I love you more. Still impossible. Still true. Her breathing slowed, steadied, think. And Ettore Malvini, who'd faced down death 100 times without fear, held his wife as she slipped away and felt his own heart shatter. Amore eterno, he whispered against her hair. Per semper. Eternal love. Forever. Her last breath was soft, peaceful, like falling asleep in the arms of the man she'd loved for 40 years. And Ettore held her long after she was gone, whispering promises and memories and love into the silence. Ettore lived 2 more years. He spent them surrounded by family, telling stories about Beatrice, about their love, about the life they'd built from a moment of jealousy and a choice to stay. He died in his sleep one Tuesday morning in April, the same day Sophia had been born all those years ago. His children found him peaceful, smiling, and clutched in his hand was a faded photograph. A woman in a crimson dress, young and beautiful and absolutely radiant. The woman who'd changed everything. The woman who'd saved him. The woman who'd proved that love, real, fierce, eternal love, could transform even monsters into men. The end. In Rome they still tell stories about Don Ettore Malvini and his beloved wife. About a love so fierce it rewrote all the rules. About a mafia boss who knelt for only one woman. About a secretary who saw the man beneath the monster and stayed anyway. About a crimson dress and where are you going in that dress? It was the beginning of everything. And the answer always was simple. To you. Always to you.